light comes into your eyes, it gets focused by your cornea all the way down onto the cones and rods at the back of your eye, and your brain interprets those signals as a certain amount of bright and dark. And so a telescope does the same thing, only instead of limited by about 8 millimeters of your iris, instead they're limited by how big their mirror or lens is. The bigger your mirror, the more light you detect. And so it'd be the equivalent of just having really, really big eyes. Telescopes can just gather a whole heck of a lot of light, and that allows us to push the boundaries of what our eyes can see. I mean, you can put a camera on a telescope, sure, and make a pretty picture, but I like the idea of using a telescope to enhance our own view of the universe.
Astronomy is a good example of the overlap between nature and art. I think a lot of people are interested in astronomy because of the beauty of space, and especially the beauty of the images that we obtain with big telescopes. You can see certain beauty with your eyes, but the images you can obtain with telescopes, where you can see the colors, see the distribution of stars in a galaxy, see the beautiful spiral shape of a galaxy, that turns it into art.
Well, there's also limitations, even in space, just by the quality of the optics that go up. And if we could make it perfect, if we could make a perfect mirror that was perfectly flat and a perfect CCD or a perfect detector, that's the only way we would ever get a perfect image. But we're always going to be limited by our technology, even if we send a telescope up into space, which eliminates a lot of the variables. So the space-based stuff is closer in terms of quality, but getting enough light gathering capacity is always going to be an issue.
And H-pause, 7 November.
We're always going to be able to get more resolution. We're going to be able to see closer and closer. We'll be able to scan farther, but there's always going to be a level of detail that is beyond our capabilities.
think just like with, looking through the atmosphere and everything, all the limitations we have with looking at objects in the sky, we each have our own limitations in how we view other people and how we view other cultures.
I think that's a great analogy. We literally see things with aberrations because our eyes are not perfect. Certainly mine are far from perfect, so you're a little blurry to me. But we also perceive what's going on in the world in different ways. Everyone has a different way of seeing or perceiving the same thing because of our background, our education, our family upbringing. And I certainly believe that there are more accurate ways to see what's going on in the world, and that some people see things in a very aberrated way.
One of the things we're trying to do is here with astronomy is to look past all that, and I think that's the same thing we need to do in our culture too. There's theories about how the planets migrated from their orbits and were formed in different places. So they move around within the solar system. The asteroids move around within the solar system. I think the universe really is all about movement, and without that, it would be dead.
Immigration is a great example of this, and I think what makes the biggest difference for people is whether they're actually seeing immigrants directly and interacting with immigrants, or just hearing about them through the news or from somebody else. If one doesn't experience immigration through direct interaction, one can imagine anything and believe almost anything. But if one meets people and comes to understand what they're going through, I think that gives one a much more accurate understanding of the issue.
I've always felt that the whole notion of borders is pretty silly in the first place, and in space there's some natural types borders like we have down here on Earth too. Like a river does cause a boundary for movement of animals, and there's also things in space that cause things to group into certain areas and makes it hard for them to transfer from one place to another. But of course that's all imposed by nature, whereas for us, a lot of it's politics and human imposed, and that doesn't seem to make sense. If we ever did have contact with aliens, I think one of the things that it would hopefully encourage humanity to do would be to break down barriers between the countries, more unite, seeing that have everything and we have so much in common compared to life elsewhere in the universe that really we should be together instead of separate.
Astronomy kind of gives us not only a perspective of where we fit within the universe, but also it really leads to knowing more about the universe and ourselves.
I think about how it's a shame how we have borders the way they are, and my personal feeling is that that's not something that humanity should have. We should be free to go wherever we want on the planet and to cooperate with each other. I think one of the nice things about science is that scientists generally try to look past that. They try to cooperate with each other no matter what country they're from. Back in the Cold War even, the scientists in Russia and the US tried to cooperate with each other to do good things for humanity, despite what was going on. And, I think that really helps move society forward. Stuff like that really we can share together and cooperate together.
Listo, corte. ¿Ya nos vamos?
Va, ahorita chicos hay que recoger todo. Venga, vámonos.